You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello, listeners, and welcome back to the weekly Keep Canada Weird discussion series. If you're new here, my name is Jordan Bonaparte, and in Keep Canada Weird, my pal Aaron Airport and I seek out and explore some of the offbeat news stories that played out across Canada over the past week. In tonight's episode, which we recorded on the 9th of July, 2024, Aaron and I consider whether Nicky 9 door is a public safety risk. We investigate an anomalous pile of lobsters found on a roadside in Ontario. We infiltrate the secretive Garden Gnome Restoration Society, and we laugh at the criminal in BC who puts the arse in arsonist. So let's get into it. Handsome Aaron Airport, it's almost become tradition. What are you drinking?
I am back to basics tonight. I have my 0 sugars, 0 caffeine Coca-Cola.
Okay, good. I'm glad to see that. Working on last week's episode was a bit of a nightmare. The editing with you slurring your speech and everything from the gin smashers or whatever it was you had. But Diet Cola doesn't mess you up as much. I'm actually double fisting it here. I got half a cup of tea. It was supposed to be a full cup of tea, but I spilt it on my way to set up. So I brought a can of Diet Pepsi as a backup, just in case the half full cup of tea doesn't do it. I got Diet Pepsi here just in case.
Wow.
Keeping me safe. Anything new? Anything you want to talk about? Have you done anything interesting in the last week?
Yeah. Actually, I do have something of interest to report that I think you'll find very interesting.
Okay.
I was in Toronto on the weekend. Now, is there anything you'd like to...
Was anyone special there with you?
Well, Randy Stonewall was there.
I was there. We've been friends for about 100 years. Is this our first vacation together?
It depends if you consider some of the bars that we played maybe off island, as vacations.
When you're talking about when the band was touring, no, that was work, man. We did not have any fun back then.
No, I hated our music. I hated playing together. Yeah, you're right.
So this was our first actual vacation. We had a great time together in Toronto with our bestie, Randy Stonewall. For me, if I think of highlights, I'm going to say renting scooters, the little electric scooters.
Yeah.
And we went for 2 days in a row. We went for very long scooter rides, which was a great way to see the kind of disturbing city of Toronto.
Yeah, they're electric scooters, so we're not exhausting ourselves by trying to create the energy and force needed to travel with our feet. We were just holding a little button and zooming around the city at 20 kilometers an hour.
I was going at about 30.
That's illegal.
So it was a blast. We had a great time, and it was dipping our feet into the idea of maybe some kind of Canadian Keep Canada Weird tour / pub crawl. We may hear about that a bit more as we go tonight, because I think we may have a voicemail about it. But let's get into the stories. We got a lot to discuss tonight. It's been a weird week in Canada while you and I were masquerading around Toronto with Randy. We're going to hear about Nicky 9 door tonight. We're going to talk about lobsters. We're going to hear about stolen garden gnomes. And then we're going to talk about an arsonist who puts the arse in arsonist. Just came up with that.
Oh, man, you're quick tonight.
Let's start with a voicemail, though. I know you like that, right?
That's my favorite way to start every episode.
And this one is the end of a saga, because I'm putting my foot down here. We made a mistake of kind of stepping in it by discussing breed-specific legislation in Ontario, the ban on pit bulls. I knew that was kind of a hot topic because people are very passionate about dogs and dog ownerships and the different breeds and such. We foolishly talked about it, and I think we could run on the treadmill of opinion and feedback about that topic till the day we die. So let's air the last voicemail related to the pit bull legislation and put this to bed. This is an anonymous voicemail, but I think it really sums up my thoughts on it. And that's why I kind of want to close the discussion with this. We'll hear if you agree with them. Here it comes.
Hey, Jordan and Aaron. I am just popping on here. I'm about 2/3 of the way through of the most recent Keep Canada Weird episode. And I'm just in response to the whole pit bull debate, pit bull ban in Ontario. I reside in Ontario. And I'm hoping to bring a bit of logic into the conversation. It did feel like that was lacking in a couple of the voicemails. Nobody is saying that small dogs don't attack as frequently as pit bulls. Nobody is saying that pit bulls are more aggressive. The reason that the legislation is in place is because a pit bull bite compared to a chihuahua bite can have severe consequences to the victim. So that's my 2 cents. Yeah, small dog bites, as Eve, I think was her name, was saying, they do go unreported because they're unconsequential. You get bit by a small dog, the next day you're better. Whereas we've seen in Ontario, people die from pit bull bites, people die from pit bull attacks, or have a lifelong injury or disformation from that. So that's my 2 cents. I don't want to ruffle any feathers. I'm a huge dog lover. I have 2 large breed dogs myself, and obviously training is on the trainer and it's never the dog's fault, but we do need to look at the consequences if something were to go wrong. And I also want to, make a quick comment about the kind of demographic that do own pit bulls. Sometimes it is sort of a rougher demographic that aren't really owning them as leisurely pets to raise with a family. That's not all of them, but we do see that quite often. So
The debate is over. That was the anonymous take. For the most part, I agree with what they say. Anything you want to say about the breed-specific legislation in Ontario before we close that chapter of Keep Canada Weird?
I enjoyed the caller's play on words, saying that pit boos.
Oh, that's cute.
No, stop. Edited this out, please.
Okay.
I am crumbling at the seams. I enjoyed the callers play on words when they said that pit bulls were generally owned by a rougher crowd.
Oh, I wonder, that went over my head. I wonder if it went over theirs, but good catch. I just thought of this. I forgot that we also experienced firsthand a bit of a pit bull debate when we were in Toronto. I think the second day we were there, in the morning, there was an argument outside of our Airbnb between a woman walking her dog and a kind of crazy guy who had a whole bunch to say to her about using her cell phone while she was walking her dog. You remember this?
Yeah, she was apparently, we didn't see her texting, but according to this gentleman,
this guy on a bike, yeah.
Yeah, that she was texting while she was walking her dog, and he thought that was too dangerous because she's not paying enough attention to the dog and not having enough control on the dog if she's using her attention and her other arm to text on her cell phone. So that was the main issue. But he went on for quite a while. She was being very polite to him. She was just sitting there letting him talk for what felt like hours, but was probably about 15 minutes.
Yeah, I would say a good 15 to 20 minutes about just about his thoughts on dogs and dog handling and dog ownership. And it kind of started as an argument, but then as it went on for 10 or 15 minutes, I was thinking like, wow, she's so patient. I would have walked away from this guy so long ago. It was just one of the million kind of little random encounters with eccentric people we saw during our time in Toronto.
Yeah, we saw some innocent interactions with those eccentric people, but then we also saw some very aggressive interactions.
You were witness to a violent incident.
Yeah, Randy and I had witnessed a very violent interaction with 2 gentlemen outside of the Eaton Center in downtown Toronto.
They did not sound like gentlemen. They
might have
vicious
started
men.
as gentlemen and ended as warriors, but it was graphic.
But let's just say Toronto left an impression on us, and next time I go back, I'm bringing pepper spray.
I'm bringing bear spray.
Let's get into the story. Since we're talking about like crime and dangerous events that like what we saw in Toronto, let's move on to something rather disturbing. The proliferation of nicky 9-door attacks occurring in Saskatchewan in BC. Now, we often discuss our opinion that some form of societal collapse has occurred at some point during the year, roughly during the year 2020. And in past episodes, we've shared specific examples of how that collapse has manifested itself. But I got a new one for us. The time-tested adolescent prank, nicky 9-door, is now a public safety concern here in Canada. On July 5th, the Moose Jaw Police Service tackled this issue head-on by releasing a press release or a media release. Read what the Moose Jaw Police Service have to say about Nicky Nicky Nine Door.
Okay, here it is. Within recent weeks, the Moose Jaw Police Service has seen an increase in doorbell-related pranks within the city. The prank, commonly known as Ding Dong Ditch or Nicky Nicky Nine Doors, they pluralize doors when they say it. I never heard it like that. It's always been Nicky Nicky Nine Door.
Which also, but neither example makes sense. But yeah, I've always known it as Nicky Nicky Nine Door.
Yeah, so they pluralize doors. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. It's not, but I thought it was. The prank, commonly known as Ding Dong Ditch or Nicky Nicky Nine Doors, involves a person ringing the doorbell of a private residence and then running away before the door is answered. Reports of this prank have occurred in the late evening and in some instances, the early morning hours. Persons found committing this action may be given a warning, but serious consequences could occur for repeat offenders, such as being criminally charged. The Moose Jaw Police Service asked citizens to refrain from performing this prank on residences. We are encouraging parents to talk with their children about the ramifications of performing this type of prank. Residents are asked that if they are witnesses or victims of this prank being performed or have any information to the recent spike in incidents to immediately contact Moose Jaw Police Services or Crime Stoppers.
Yikes. That's pretty serious, right?
Well, they're taking it very seriously. It was always one of those pranks when I was young that was leaned on the innocent side of things that you could get up to as a kid.
Yeah, Nicky Nicky Nine Door is a step down from egging a house, certainly.
Yeah, or Nicky Nicky House Fire, or Nicky Nicky Knife Murder, or, you know.
What about the old, bag of poop that you light on fire, like dog poop in a paper bag, and you light the bag on fire, knock on the door, and take off? Was that a thing in your part of the world?
We did it once. Yeah, we did do it once.
Okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure we've done that a few times. I've certainly done my share of Nicky Nicky Nine Door, singular.
Yeah.
Never heard of it as Nicky Nicky Nine Doors.
No, what was the other name here? Yeah, Ding Dong. What is it? Ding Dong Ditch. That name makes more sense than Nicky Nicky Nine Doors.
Yeah, I thought so as well, because that's exactly what it is. Nicky Nicky Nine Door. It doesn't make any logical sense as far as the words go, but I actually did a bit of Googling today to figure out the etymology or whatever, like the history of that word. And it seems like there is some religious ceremony in some other, or religious event in some other part of the world that Nicky Nicky Nine Door seems to have come out of. And the name of that religious event starts with an N, and maybe that's where it came from. I don't know. But certainly growing up, we did it. We called it Nicky Nicky Nine Door. But you and I agree that the world is nuts right now, right?
Parts of it, yeah.
This is certainly not the time to be screwing around playing Nicky Nicky Nine Door. There's a story we missed back in February of this year, actually February 14th on Valentine's Day, that took place in Abbotsford, BC. And I wonder if this is why the police are now so concerned about Nicky Nicky Nine Door. Listen to what happened when an 85-year-old man in Abbotsford, BC had someone bang on his door and take off.
Disturbing video, this vehicle barreling towards 3 teens.
It was hard to even fathom.
The commotion of the crash rattling neighbors.
I could hear the girl in the park screaming, back up, he's underneath.
It's all right, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be okay.
At the time, police say all 3 were taken to hospital, 2 of them suffering minor injuries.
You got it?
This happened Valentine's Day along Carlsruhe Avenue and Victoria Street. Abbotsford police say the boys were knocking on doors and running away, a prank known as Nicky Nicky Nine Doors. The driver is accused of then deliberately going in his car to run them over.
It is fair to say overreaction to this is what raised a lot of eyebrows in the community, raised concerns about the safety in this quiet residential neighborhood.
Now, nearly 5 months later, police have just finished their report, recommending charges of aggravated assault and dangerous driving to Crown Counsel.
It's making sure all our T's are crossed, I's are dotted. We make sure that every angle is looked at and presented for justice to be sought.
He says the 85-year-old immediately had his driver's license suspended and vehicle seized, which likely won't be returned until after the court case.
85, he ran over kids. It's really, really scary.
Police say the boys and their families have been supported through this emotional and mental trauma.
Oh, that's pretty wild. I'm shocked that he is charged with like assault and like dangerous driving and not attempted murder. If you see the, like, for people who are just listening to this, if you see the video, there's 3 kids running for their lives down their street as a car is, this 85-year-old man in a car is driving as fast as he can directly towards them and slams into something off camera, managing to hit 2 of the kids. And like, only thanks to good luck, they only had minor injuries. But I don't know. I think if you're driving your car at someone, that's trying to kill them, right? And over Nicky 9 doors.
They said doors in that news report as well. They pluralized it.
Are you surprised to hear that an 85-year-old man chose this as his straw that breaks the camel's back? This guy's a maniac.
He sounds like he's fed up. This guy was probably, I don't know, 85. He's Canadian, so what possible war would that have put him in? He might be too young for World War II, but yeah, I don't know. But anyway, people who know this man, maybe they're not surprised. Maybe they're like, you should never have Nicky 9 doors did him. But
yeah, every neighborhood has like a nutcase.
Yeah, and when you're older, you can get more irritable. You know, maybe it's hot outside, maybe your air conditioning is busted and your pension is done, and you're just like, you know what? The next time somebody knocks on my door and runs away, I'm going to murder them if I can catch them.
Yeah, but I wonder if this incident led the other police force to release a warning, being like, you know, now is not the time to be knocking on people's doors and running. Like, the society is on the cusp of collapse. We're on thin ice in every aspect of society. And knocking on people's doors and taking off may be what caused someone to go postal, like it did with this guy.
Yeah.
Why else would the police care? Like, in my entire 40 years of life, I've never heard of the cops care about this sort of thing.
But, you know, that all it takes is for one bad apple like this old guy to ruin everybody else's fun. It's unfortunate because we all enjoy having someone think that somebody is looking to see them at their front door and to be revealed that they are still, in fact, lonely.
Nothing is sacred. We just released volume 1 of our Keep Canada Weird mailbag. That's released now on the Nighttime Podcast premium feed or the Keep Canada Weird feed. And that's where we catch up on listener mail. During that episode, we specifically stated we do not want any voicemails about the Keep Canada Weird mailbag because it will just put us in an endless loop of reacting to reactions. As soon as we released the mailbag episode where we asked for no voicemails about the mailbag episode, one came in, and I am going to air it here because it's to answer a question that I think a lot of listeners may have. Here's a question Stacy had in reaction to the mailbag episode.
Hi, Jordan and Aaron. I was just listening to the first of your compilation of voicemails, just about anything, and you said not to give feedback on them, but I just couldn't help it because you said there's a badge. I want to get this badge. You sent me some stickers and things, but what's the badge? Is it like a patch? Can I sew it on like my jacket? Love badges. Anyways, thanks guys, and I like this new thing that you're doing. Take care.
So I wanted to air that because I want to tell Stacy that recently I upgraded the swag packs that I send out to people who have their voice appear on the show, and it now includes a round holographic sticker that's good for inside or outside use. It's very strong, and it is the Keep Canada Weird official correspondent and member of Keep Canada Weird Army badge or patch. You cannot sew it on, but you can certainly stick it to things like your car. And Stacy, I'm glad to tell you that by having your voicemail aired again, you qualify for one. So get at me with your address via email. And someone else who qualifies for one is Jacqueline, because Jacqueline sent in an email with a story that really got my attention. When this email actually came in when we were in Toronto, and I showed it to you, and we were both shocked. I'm going to read you a bit about it here, and then we'll talk about this. So Jacqueline says, "Hello to both of you. I think the person who dumped the grocery store chicken may have moved on to more expensive fare." And then Jacqueline provides a link to an Ontario Provincial Police press release. This is our second press release story. It says, North Bay, Ontario Provincial Police have received calls on July 2nd reporting a large quantity of lobsters being disposed of for unknown reasons at the shoulder of Highway 17 in Bonefield. Police would like to remind the public that it's illegal to litter or dump on the highway, and this may cause additional safety hazards as it may attract wildlife who will come out of the forest and make their way onto our traveled roadways. Anyone with information on this discarded lobster, please contact the OPP at, and it gives their number, or contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. They also released a photo of the incident, and it is a massive pile of about estimated to be over 100 like regular size lobsters that you would buy at like the grocery store. Just on the side of the road, the lobsters have their claws like kind of elastic banded, so it was like this is something that was ready for sale. And I should also say lobsters sell at about somewhere between $25 to $35 a lobster. If we got 100 of them on the side of the road, what the hell is going on? It's as weird as rotisserie chickens in the Yukon forest.
So I'm looking at the article here that you have. It doesn't say, I don't think, that if the lobsters were alive or if they were dead.
Yeah, I'm guessing if they had their claws elastic banded, they would have been alive.
Usually that's how you see them when they're alive. They have the elastic bands on the claws, but which made me think if these were cooked lobsters, they wouldn't have the bands on them.
No, you wouldn't cook them with the bands on. So whether they were alive or dead on the side of the road, they were uncooked lobsters because they had the bands.
Well, I'm only assuming. I'm not a big lobster eater. I've never cooked lobster. I don't really like lobster, but
You definitely would take the elastic band off. I know that
would
much
you?
about
Yeah,
it.
I assume you would, but I'm speaking again, as usual, from complete ignorance.
And even if they were alive, if you had I don't know, a truck full of live lobsters and you dropped them off on the side of the road, how long would they live for? Like they need to be in the water.
Yeah, so okay, so now we're on the assumption now that these are live lobsters. That makes the mystery even more curious. Maybe there was something unusual or wrong with them.
Mm-hmm. 100 of them?
Some fishermen pulled them up and they're like, these lobsters are deformed or something, or I don't know.
Yeah, but you'd think a fisherman would then just throw it back. Like, why would you realize that on the highway? Just
Yeah,
throw it
I
back
know.
in the
I'm
water.
trying. It just makes this riddle even more crazy. I
Yeah.
can't even think of a reason that you would dump that many live lobsters in one spot. Um, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I just think it's really unique that two stories like this played out in such a short period of time, like the rotisserie chickens in the Yukon, and now this. I can't think of any other story that we've covered on Keep Canada Weird that I could kind of put in the pocket with these two.
Okay, here it is. Maybe somebody was going to visit a city like you and I did
Okay.
in Toronto this past weekend. And you know how you and I rented electric scooters
Hmm.
and drove around the city. So somebody's probably in this city and they're going to a party and they're like, you know what? I'm going to be the life of the party and I'm going to show up with 100 lobsters, but I can't walk there with 100 lobsters, whatever. No Uber or taxi is going to let me in their vehicle with that many stinky lobsters. So what I'll do is I'll get a really big bag that'll fit, 100 lobsters in them, put them on my back, rent an e-scooter, and pick them up, and then drive the e-scooter to the party. And then they fell over from the weight of the lobsters, loses his balance on the e-scooter, tips over. The lobsters spill out of the bag onto the side of the road, and then the person is knocked
Well,
out cold.
I think when they lift up all those 100 lobsters, they're gonna find like a dead guy in a scooter underneath them.
Yeah.
Let's move on to another one here. I don't think we're going to solve the mystery of the decomposing lobsters anytime soon. But if anyone out there has any other stories about anomalous piles of food appearing in unexpected places, please let us know about it, because I like this new thread of stories. Let's go on to a story of a secret society. This is a very unexpected story. There's a man in Kelowna, BC. His name is Kelly Blair, and he's a pretty simple guy, lives a pretty simple life. The most exciting thing that happened to him over the last few months was a garage sale or a yard sale that went wrong. A bunch of stuff was stolen while he was trying to hold a garage sale. One of the things that seemed to go missing in and around the time of his garage sale was a collection of garden gnomes. But that theft, it opened Mr. Blair's eyes to a secret society that has been living just below the surface in Kelowna. Listen to the story of the Garden Gnome Restoration Society. Here it comes.
It's something you only see in the movies.
Did they, come to life on their own at night? Call Uber and go off for a makeover? I can't say.
Legend has it gnomes come alive at night. And while it would be an interesting tale to tell, for Kelowna resident Kelly Blair, his gnomes disappeared, but not because they suddenly came to life.
I had a garage sale a month or so ago, had a bunch of things like a canoe and some tools taken, and a few days later I realized that all but one of my gnome collection was also missing.
At first, Blair believed the gnomes were stolen from his property. He said they were gone for about a month or so, but it wasn't up until 2 days ago when Blair finally received some answers about what happened to his garden gnomes when a woman knocked on his door.
The lady hands me this envelope. This is what's inside. And on the back, it says the Gnome Restoration Society.
And with the envelope came his gnomes, refurbished, repainted, essentially brand new, courtesy of the anonymous Gnome Restoration Society.
She says, follow me to my car. And we went to the car, and there were all my, what I thought were stolen gnomes, all back, completely redone.
This is what Blair's gnomes looked like prior to the Gnome Restoration Society getting its hands on them, weathered, dull, and worn out, but the group brought them to life.
The detail is amazing. It's not like they gave these things a quick paint job. There's multicolors on all of them.
What were once items Blair planned to give away are now keepsakes he plans to hold on to.
There's a story here, and I feel very kind of privileged.
Blair's only ask if the society returns to refurbish the last gnome it didn't take, so all the gnomes are all alike.
Yeah, I've never heard of anything like this. We've covered a lot of like odd pranks that in odd event things that people have done oftentimes for attention, but this doesn't seem to be anything like that. Is this a cult? Is this just a group of little old ladies who want to go around improving the garden gnomes of Kelowna, BC and beyond? What do you think of this story?
There's another layer to it as well, because it's mixed in with another crime.
Like that, I think it's just unrelated. I think it just happened that someone stole stuff from him at a yard sale, and a couple days later, unrelated to that, the Gnome Restoration Society showed up probably under the cover of darkness and snatched all but one of his gnomes away and brought it back to their workshop and gave them detailed paint jobs.
I like to think the Gnome Restoration Society, while taking the gnomes, saw the other items and said, well, we're painting his gnomes for free, so got to get something out of the deal.
So they
And
grabbed a canoe
took
and
his
some
canoe and
some
yeah.
tools, like a saw. Yeah, well, I guess, paint is expensive, and the man hours it would take to improve these garden gnomes to the extent that they are. And in the news clip, if anyone Googles this or goes to the Keep Canada Weird Facebook group where I'll post the article, you get to see the finished product that the Gnome Restoration Society provided him. And yeah, it's gorgeous. But what do you think of this? The society shows up at his house, knocks on his door, and passes him the envelope. He opens it, and they're like, "Come to our car," which is kind of creepy. He goes to the car and gets them. Given that it seems to be this secret society, wouldn't have it had made more sense for them instead to just kind of put the gnomes back at night and maybe just lay the envelope there like a calling card? I think like showing up at the house and knocking on the door is an unnecessary step that takes a little bit of the magic out of it.
It's the ego of the Gnome Restoration Society.
I thought the
They
same.
cannot do an anonymous good deed. They need to be recognized for their good deed, and they want to basically bathe in the glory of restoring these gnomes.
I wonder, does it like do you think it takes the magic out of it? Because I love the story, but that one piece of it I thought is kind of weird. Unless if you were going to do that, if you were going to knock on the door, you should show up like in costume so he can't see your face. You shouldn't say a word. You should just pass the envelope.
Yeah, they should be in like black spandex suits and Guy Fawkes masks,
Yeah, like anonymous. You knock on the door, and when he answers, he's like, "What do you want?" And you just pass the envelope.
We're here to return your gnomes. Like just in the voice disguised, like,
And you have to choose if you're going to follow them or not. You walk behind them to their car, they pop open the trunk, and all your gnomes are there. And you just leave a complete mystery behind. And I think that's how it should be.
Yeah, it's also very, very interesting that they just assume that this person wants their gnomes restored and painted. And, Thomas C says in the chat, like, what if I like my gnomes old and weathered looking?
Well, I don't know if that would be vandalism or theft or what, but like they are rolling the dice by doing this. I don't think a judge would throw the book at them, but there is some risk. I wouldn't be doing this.
Well, there would definitely be risk if they went to an 85-year-old man's house and then he tried to run them over with his car.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, do his gnomes.
Yeah, try and paint anything that he owns.
It reminds
Hey, mister, can I paint your fence? I'll kill you.
Yeah, reminds me of the Chris Farley skit. I'm a big Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live fan, and there's this one skit that's like it's a behind the scenes look at hidden camera ads, and it's they're like it's when hidden camera ads go wrong, and they show this clip of Chris Farley's like sitting at a restaurant with like his wife or something, and someone says like, "How did you like your tea, sir?" And he's like, "It was really great." And then they say, "Well, it was actually," they say some brand like of instant coffee.
Oh yeah, I remember this sketch.
Sir, do you realize that you are not drinking regular coffee, but Colombian decaffeinated coffee crystals?
What?
I said you're drinking Colombian decaf coffee crystals.
What? You son of a bitch. You no good damn bitch. You lied to me. You lied to me. And you told me this was
Yeah.
That could happen with this garden gnome story.
It absolutely could. Because even when you have the best intentions, a good deed is only good if the receiver wants it.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that they're doing this. I think it's cool. I think they could level it up by dealing with the actual delivery of the gnomes and keeping that mystery alive.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay. Let's move on to a big one. This is a story I want to go out on. It's one of my favorite things we discuss. Every so often we get into dumb Canadian criminals. And it seems like when we do, it's usually there's a hunt on for the criminal for whatever reason. They've done something, and everyone's looking for them. It seems like oftentimes when we cover these stories, something about their crime is so absurd and ridiculous that it makes them an even greater target. Not only are the police looking for them, but they become internet famous as a result of some stupid thing they did while committing a crime. We must have covered 25 stories of this that fit that kind of prototype. But a new one just happened. A new story just played out involving an arsonist that, again, puts the arse in arson. The story takes place in Richmond, BC. Two men attempted to commit arson on a business, but as CCTV footage will show, the only thing that they really managed to torch was their own pants. Listen to this.
Police are asking for help identifying two suspects in an alleged arson in Richmond after one of them apparently set himself on fire. It happened near Simpson Road around 4:30 a.m. back on April 24th. RCMP found a small fire that appeared to be intentionally set, and then these two men were seen on surveillance video approaching the business, allegedly smashing the window and starting the fire. One suspect accidentally set his pants on fire and knocked off his mask. He's described as 40 to 50 years old with a medium build and slicked back long, dirty blonde hair. The second suspect is late 20s to 30s with an athletic build.
Aaron, I don't know if you had a chance to watch the full kind of clip of this happening, but what you see is they approach like a window. They must smash the window or something, and it looks like they light something on fire and try to put it in the window. But somehow in doing that, one of the two arsonists engulfs himself in flames. Apparently no one has ever taught him the stop, drop, and roll method of putting out yourself when you're on fire, because instead what he does is just kind of sits on the ground and takes off the mask he's using to cover his face. The CCTV or the security cameras point it right at him, capturing this interaction with his buddy, his co-conspirator, just kind of like smacking his legs and stuff as he appears to be in complete pain. Like this guy is getting burned alive next to his crime scene.
Yeah, it's entertaining to watch. See a man lit on fire and burned to death. I don't know.
He didn't die. He's they say they expect whoever.
Do we know that for sure?
The police say they expect he received burns. He's been injured and received burns to his legs, because that's like he was on fire way too long. He must have, I can only imagine, spilled gas on his pants or something, maybe. Like maybe
I'm sure there was an enormous amount of gas on his pants.
But everyone knows to stop, drop, and roll, right? Like, isn't that like the age old?
Yeah, well, to give the guy a bit of credit, yeah, stop, drop, and roll is all fine and dandy when you're learning it in a classroom and someone says, stop, drop, and roll. But when you're actually on fire, that's a lot to process mentally. So are you able to then go back into the recesses of your mind and recall what your sixth grade teacher told you? Or if you're going to ever light a building on fire and you're covered in your own gasoline, make sure that you stop, drop, and roll.
And I also don't know how effective it would have been, because if you watch this video, you will see, just like you said, he seemed to have a lot of gas on his pants. He was like, it lit fast and furious. And not only did he seem to not know what to do other than just kind of sit down as his pants were burning, his buddy didn't either. His buddy's just kind of like patting at his legs. The mask falling off was a kind of a nice touch. And I hate to take pleasure in someone being hurt, but when they're committing arson and they light themselves on fire, I feel like I can't help but laugh at this.
Yeah, I like to think that he got the gasoline on his pants, not from dousing the item in gasoline that they were trying to light on fire and throw into the building, but on the drive to the building, they were low on gas and pulled into the gas station. And then he was trying to pump gas and he spilled a bunch on his legs. He's like, I spilled gas on my legs. Anyway, we're late to go burn a building.
This guy, I believe, will be caught simply as a result of this video being as absurd as it is. It's just the video is getting shared far and wide all over the place. They have where he falls to the ground and makes the worst attempt to put himself out. He is again facing the security camera. His mask comes off, a clear shot of his face. They're gonna find this guy and they're like, "Show us your legs, sir." And he will have no hair. He'll have
We
no
don't
hair.
normally ask this of people we arrest, but give me a look at those legs.
There's no hair on them. He's not a swimmer. Get in the car.
Well, he could say he is.
That would be his only defense. Like, Your Honor, I was swimming. I was swim racing.
I was swimming in fire and gasoline.
It's his only way out. Can you think of any of these other stories that I compared this to? Like a dumb criminal who just made a mockery of themselves and as a result got additional attention to the search. The one I think of is in our hometown in Sydney, Cape Breton, a guy put a garbage bag over his head and robbed a convenience store and very clumsily. That was a big one.
Mm-hmm. That's the one that comes to my mind too.
The guy stealing all the cupcakes. He was caught on camera like breaking into like a bakery.
Weren't those butter tarts?
Butter tarts. That's what it was.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
You do something like if you're going to commit a crime, you need to make it low key. Don't give people a reason to care. Just deal with the cops. You know, if they get something like this on video, the cops are going to put it out there and make you a star.
Mm-hmm. It's so hard to commit crimes now. I feel bad for criminals because there's so many cameras out there.
Mm-hmm.
Criminals got to make a living too.
Yeah.
And now there's so much surveillance from security cameras, from cell phones. Yeah, you can't get away with anything anymore, and it's a shame.
And even further, dash cams. There's there's cameras everywhere. It is hard for criminals. It's hard for everybody, criminals included. But again, if
You know who doesn't mind all the cameras
No.
all the time is the Gnome Restoration Society.
Who's always looking to get
Always
little
looking
extra
to-
air blown up their skirts.
That's right.
Is that a saying?
We're on to you, Gnome Restoration Society.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be the new Haktua girl. That's their
right.
goal.
Who do you think they are, the Restoration Society? Do you think it's a bunch of like old... I don't know why I think it's a bunch of old ladies.
Well, the guy who would have met them didn't really go into any detail of what he saw when he went to their car. Like, were they old? Were they young? Yeah, he didn't say anything about their appearance or his impression of who they were.
I wonder if it's because the journalist who put that piece together maybe agrees with me that the story's more compelling if there's a mystery there. So maybe he said, like, it was this little old lady, her name's Diane, and she lives around here. And then the journalist's like, no, don't ruin the magic.
No,
It's a secret
I'm going to
society.
lie and make sure this story is somewhat interesting.
Well, we're talking about the news, right? Isn't that what they do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they fabricate.
Mm-hmm. The fake news
gnome
media.
news. Fake gnome news.
The fake gnome media is who's covering this story.
Yeah.
I got a voicemail I want to go out on. This is Jessica, who again will qualify for a Keep Canada Weird correspondent badge as a result of this. Jessica is reporting on the animal uprising, but it's a report from Texas, and it involves what Jessica believes may be some kind of naval operation being conducted by the animal forces. What do you think of this?
Hey Jordan and Aaron, this is Jessica here from Texas with an unsettling report about the animal uprising. It seems the animals are forming a naval force. Last week, a couple on South Padre Island here in Texas were attacked by a shark while celebrating Independence Day. I'm not sure why I looked at the pictures, but this woman lost her whole calf during this brutal assault. Was this a lone renegade, or a first look at the animal uprising Navy? Either way, the message was clear. You may celebrate independence today, but remember who the real overlords are. Thanks.
I think the part of this that is chilling is not the lost limb from the shark attack. It's that it happened on Independence Day. And we talk about the animal uprising with an idea that the animals are trying to take their place back on Earth as the apex predator and take over. This idea of Americans celebrating Independence Day, it could be kind of it could be seen as oh, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a big statement to make to commit an attack on Independence Day like this.
Yeah, there was definitely a message behind the thing that with sharks is they don't look at borders the way that we do. It doesn't really cross their mind. A shark swims around and a shark eats, and that's all it does. So, I although I would never want to be attacked by a shark, unfortunately, I support the sharks in shark attacks. The ocean belongs to them, always has, always will. When we go swimming, we're in their territory, and if they find us interesting, they may take a bite, but they generally don't have an interest in eating human beings. But you do see the odd time, maybe the movements of that particular swimmer might resemble an injured seal, so you may see a shark attack. In that sense, the shark generally is not going to eat you. It's going to maybe take a bite and then decide that you're gross and spit you out. But that, unfortunately, that bite is probably going to be pretty devastating because a shark's jaws and teeth are gnarly.
If only they had a way to like really take a small sample, but that is how a
Just a
shark
lick.
does.
If only they had a usable tongue.
Mhm.
And they come over and just tasted you. And we're like, ew, gross. Ugh, bony human, gross.
Yeah. The idea of like swimming in water that would have sharks in it is something I'm not into. I don't like beaches. I don't like the sun. If I'm in a pool, I want it to
Oh,
be
yeah.
indoors and like chemically treated. You're not gonna catch me. You're not gonna catch me in anywhere where I'm gonna get caught by a shark or a bear for that
Really?
matter. No,
I was in the ocean yesterday, and
were there any
and it was
jellyfish?
yes, there was
Oh,
jellyfish.
disgusting things, right?
They definitely put you on edge a little bit when there's a few of them floating around. But didn't deter us. We still swam and had a nice time in the water.
But what are they? Like, they are the closest things to alien life forms on this planet. They're basically, like, if you look at a jellyfish, it is like, it's a nervous system floating in water. Like, it has no body or anything. It's made of water, and the only thing that you can even see is it's kind of like nervous system, like these little, like, veiny things. They're so weird.
Yeah, and the Portuguese man of war jellyfish are being spotted over the past couple of years here in Nova Scotia, and
And those are just the massive ones
they're
that'll
not
mess you up, right?
necessarily they're yeah, like their actual body, like the jelly part is not that big, but it's the size of the tentacles that they have. They can be 10, 15, 20 feet long, I read. So uh
Hmm.
so anyway, it's you can see one from a distance because it has a very distinctive kind of fin on the top of it. So they are quite recognizable, but you may not see it, but its tentacles may be near you. And their sting is much more vicious than a regular jellyfish's sting.
No, thank you.
Not usually fatal, but certainly packs a punch that's going to ruin your day.
Okay. Are they animals or are they bugs? Like because again, I'm on the thought of the animal uprising. Is a Portuguese man of war or the common jellyfish, where do they fit into all this? I don't see it as an animal. I also don't see it as an insect. I think of it almost as like a,
No, it's a fish.
is it a fish?
Well, it's
They call
called a
them,
jellyfish.
yeah, but it's, you can also buy Swedish fish at the grocery at a convenience store.
That's a manufactured candy.
Yeah, but they're called fish. Swedish fish.
Yeah, you're right. They are.
So is a jellyfish a fish, an insect, or other?
Well, I'm not allowed to Google to confirm that I think it's a fish. Sorry, I got stung by a Portuguese man at war. I'm not allowed to Google on this show.
Okay.
So I cannot confirm what I'm saying. But I think because it's called a jellyfish, that it is probably a fish. You're
I'm Googling it.
Googling?
I don't care. I need to know.
Okay, well, for the record, I did not Google anything.
Is a jellyfish a fish?
Said the idiot.
Despite their names, jellyfish aren't actually fish. They're
Oh,
invertebrates
okay.
or animals with no backbones.
So they're an animal.
Weird. I don't consider them animals.
Why do they call them? I guess just because they
Swim around.
float around in the water, but why do they call them fish then?
They should be called jelly aliens because that's what they look like.
Or what about just jellies? Ah, I got stung by a jelly.
Adorable.
Adorable. I love you. Marry me. Yeah, I don't know. Animal is certainly not a term that I would come to mind when I think of a jellyfish.
I call them a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Because they're anyway. I just find them weird. But we're going way off track. We got to wrap this up. Anything you want to say or tease before we do? Anything on your mind?
Tease?
Yeah.
Nothing I want to tease. I don't like teasing. I don't like being teased.
Do you want to just put it out there then? Anything you want to just put out there on us?
Just love and kindness.
Okay. Well said.
Let's make outside of the Eaton Centers safe again.
Okay. In Toronto, yeah. You're still shooken up by what you saw. Aaron saw a fist fight, everybody.
Yeah.
And he's shaken up.
I didn't like it. I don't like to see that much aggression on a Saturday afternoon. Save that for outside of a bar at 2 a.m.
Yeah, when we're in bed.
It's where it belongs.
All right. Well, we'll wrap this up. Handsome Aaron Airport. Until next time.
Jordan, until next time.
People in the live chat are disturbed that two maritime people know so little about fish and water-related animals. We're the worst maritimers.
Whoa, I think I displayed a great knowledge on the Portuguese man of war.
You did. And I give you that.
So I want that listener to retract their statement. I would like to say, Jordan, until next time, I'd like to make a callback to a Facebook group I started a number of years ago when I actually had Facebook. I don't have it anymore, but myself, and a friend of mine started a Facebook group called the Cape Breton Wave and Jellyfish Watch.
Oh, I remember this. You were in the news about that.
We were in the news about that. Yeah. So basically it's a Facebook group for anybody who likes to go to beaches on Cape Breton Island, and people will post beach reports, basically saying, what the beach is like. Are there a lot of jellyfish? Are there big waves? And that's the kind of things you want to know before you decide to go to a beach. Because if there's a lot of jellyfish there, you don't want to go. Mm-hmm. But if the waves are big, you do want to go and play in the waves.
Mm-hmm. It just shows how long you've been on the front lines of monitoring the animal uprising.
Yeah, even before I knew there was an uprising, I was interacting with the animals and trying to keep people safe from animals like jellyfish.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird, but let us also call out to you for even greater support in this. If something weird happens in your neck of the woods, make sure you let us know about it. Or if you have any thoughts, theories, or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we want to hear that too. The best way to reach us is by sending a voice message using the built-in app that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And to sweeten the deal a little bit, if your voice is aired on the show, you qualify for a free Keep Canada Weird swag pack. So once you hear your voice message played, all you got to do is email me at nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, give me your mailing address, and I'll have something out to you right away. We're very excited to hear from you. Now, before we part here, let me end with some thanks. First, a big thanks to Aaron for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime. A shout out to the internet's favorite cult leader, Unicole, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data, who provides the outro version of O Canada. And then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. On the topic of support, let me thank the newest premium feed subscribers. Rochelle, Ingrid, and Aaron, thank you for your generous support. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, the premium feed subscription only costs a couple dollars a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed also gives you those episodes 2 days early, gives them to you ad-free, and gives you access to a full back catalog of episodes. You can go premium right now at patreon.com/nighttimepodcast. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the growth of the show by simply sharing this episode on social media and letting all your like-minded friends know why they should listen. Your support is very much appreciated. Now, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let me know if you see anything weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.
And now to our viewers and listeners everywhere. Good night.
Before we end here, we got to talk about what our story of the night is. I think I usually go first. We got to choose between the Nicky 9-door chaos, the lobsters, Kelowna's Garden Gnome Restoration Society, and the arsonist who smoked their own stash. Is that how I put it? I love the Garden Gnome Society, but I'm going to go with the arsonist getting instant karma, aka smoking their own stash, also known as lighting themselves on fire and getting in the news for it. That's the kind of weird news story that I think when I see that, I stop what I'm doing and think, what the hell is going on here? That's my story of the night.
Yeah, I really like the lobster story because there's such a mystery around it. We really couldn't even begin to solve it.
No, and it's rare that you get stumped where you really take a minute to come up with...
Even to come up with a theory, yeah. Normally I'm pretty quick to come up with a ridiculous theory that would explain why somebody would do something so stupid. But I was having a hard time. I was grasping at straws on that.
There's no logical reason for there to be 100 lobsters on the side of a highway. I agree.
Yeah.